AI is one of the biggest shifts in the world, maybe bigger than the internet. And we are, as a company, and we have a chance of being the voice of that shift. We have a chance to be the voice of the technology. And it's a rare opportunity in life to be able to kind of define where that goes. I think we are the frontier of voice AI technology today. We want to be in the future. And we can do just so much incredible work, whether it's in the voice agent space, whether it's in the creative space. So we are giving it all to make it happen. And I think I think all of us have the lack of being in that foundational shift where you can create so much work. It just takes agency and will to be able to do it and hopefully create amazing work for others.
Welcome. Maybe just like a short introduction about Venture Europe. My name is Colleen Fabry. I run the Venture Europe podcast. We're in the top 10% most shared podcast globally, according to Spotify. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Spotify.
Nice.
Some of our previous guests are like Annie Duke, like bestsellers like Annie Duke. Maybe you guys have read Thinking in Bets. Also Dan Ariely, he wrote Predictably Irrational, but also visionary founders like David Friedberg. Maybe you've heard about him at All In podcast. And now, of course, having Matty here, he's also one of the visionary founders. I'm pretty excited today to have Matty on. I don't know, just a show of hands. How many of you know about ElevenLabs? Okay, 4. How many of you are using or have used ElevenLabs? 1. This is a sales opportunity, Matty.
It's perfect.
So briefly about ElevenLabs. ElevenLabs is the AI research and product company building audio tools for businesses, developers, and creators. The company's 2 platforms span creative work for speech, music, and sound generation, and a platform for voice agents that listen, talk, and act. Before founding ElevenLabs, Matti worked at Palantir as a deployment strategist with Fortune 500 companies and at BlackRock, where he helped launch the Aladdin wealth platform. Matti, welcome to the show.
Colin, thanks so much for having me here.
So I just want to share a secret. 2 days ago, I saw your pre-seed deck. You were raising about 2 million euros. And for context for the audience, they are making now about 300 million euros. They are valued at about 3.3 billion euros. Walk us through the story. How did the vision of ElevenLabs evolve from those early days with a pre-seed deck to today?
Yeah, and we've been lucky to recently launch a tender offer as well for employees, which even bumped the valuation further. So now we are at 6.6 billion. And as an ElevenLabs company, you can definitely feel that we really like the number 11. So all the valuations are always divisible by 11. Apart from the first one, apart from the pre-seed round, which was the 2 million at 9, but I was the first investor did 11%, and that's where it came from. But in the early days, so we started a company where I'm and my co-founder have known each other for 15 years and became best friends back in high school. And then did through the years everything together. We studied, we worked, we lived, we traveled together, and the time is on our side. We are still best friends. And the idea grew from where we are from both. We are from Poland. And there's a very interesting piece that in Poland, if you watch a foreign movie, all the voices, all the characters are narrated with one single character. So whether it's a male character or female character, in Polish, you have one single voiceover. It's like a single narrator dub. Terrible experience, and something that still happens today for all the content generated. And my co-founder was Piotr, who was working at Google at the time in research space. I was working at Palantir, kind of combining the product and go-to-market motion. And we knew that as you think about the future, this will change. You will have all the content available in all languages, in all voices with incredible quality. And we decided to try to tackle and change that. And started ElevenLabs with that vision of making content, making information accessible. And through those last 4 years, we started in 2022, we evolved from that early vision of fixing the language barrier into fixing everything around voice and creating the voice of the technology. And as you mentioned, we think about it in 2 key categories. We think about a creative category where everybody can create in a much easier way, whether that's narration, whether that's voiceover, whether that's a dub, whether that's adding music in one platform. And then the second, which is probably what's moving the quickest and where we see the biggest potential is conversational agents. And we've built a platform for people to be able to create agents that interact with the end user. So a good example could be an agent in the customer support, customer experience service. So if you're calling to inquire about your bill, instead of waiting in the IVR line or not getting to the assistant, you have a great agent that can help you on that task, all the way through to completely different use cases, like working with gaming companies, where you can shift from the static experiences into dynamic characters in the game. So recently worked with Epic Games, where you can where we brought Darth Vader inside of the Fortnite. So every player, millions of players, could interact with Darth Vader live, which is one of the biggest deployments of AI they've worked on, and an incredible show of what's possible with that voice agent experience. And that's how we think about the future. As we think about the work, the voice will become a big interface to the technology around us and what we would love to solve. And underpinning that is still the same core base. So as we started the company, one of the things that we decided to take and do slightly differently is combine the product work that we do with the research work. So we actually do a lot of the foundational research that underpins both the creative and the agentic side in-house for audio. So we've built our model for text-to-speech, for speech-to-text, for orchestration, about a lot of that work. And that's something that I think, looking back, something that I'm the most proud of as my co-founder is the brain behind all of that, and has been able to assemble an incredible team. But beating the biggest companies time and time again on benchmarks and the quality has been incredible.
I remember the first time that I've heard one of your voices laugh, and it was insanely good, actually scarily good. What are the implications of adding emotion to the AI?
Yeah, we had, when we started, so in 2022, we still haven't had anything released. So we tried to do what everybody does, which is get a waiting list going, trying to get users in, have a pretty good amount of people that are signed up so we can reach out to them the moment the platform is live. And we did a blog post of the first AI that can laugh, where we were able, as one of the first text-to-speech providers, to generate emotions and make the voices actually laugh in a human way, which we felt was incredible. Which was very good. It was the first moment when with my co-founder, where we launched the blog post, went to sleep, we woke up, and we had like over 1,000 signups. So like the first viral moment of a kind, where people were really adopting the technology. But the truth is, it's very hard, and it was very hard for the technology to understand the context of what's being said and transfer that into more of emotional speech. So if a voice actor reads a text, or if any of you would read a text, you would know from the context if it's a happy sentence, if it's a sad sentence, if it's a dialogue, so you need to pronounce the characters slightly differently, if it's the punctuation saying that you should end the sentence in a different way. And the previous text-to-speech models weren't able to do that very well. You would usually effectively try to stitch up the sounds for each of the phonemes together to get the sound out, which just didn't replicate the emotions. And our breakthrough in the model was finally being able to understand that context to a much better extent. So when you saw the text piece, the model would understand in the same way that language models can predict the next token. It could understand the text, predict the next token, predict the next audio token, and then generate that to a much better extent. And that was the kind of the first model that could actually get it to another level. And then all the way fast forward to this year, to 2025, after we've cracked that, the second big problem was, how do you control it? So you have the model that can understand the text and get the emotions based on what's written. But now let's say you want to change the emotion itself yourself directly. And that was the biggest struggle over the years, where you want to effectively direct it the same way that the director would, but you couldn't. So we've finally been able to crack this, where you can now give the directions of pronounce this in a happier way, in a sadder way, and change the accent, make it dramatic. So finally, you can understand the context, you can give it directions, and a combination of that gives just an amazing results.
No, absolutely. So I'm a podcaster, so of course I use ElevenLabs, and I use ElevenLabs also to train my voice. And to replace the words that don't work. But also I created like an AI agent as a VC. As an ex-VC, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if a founder could just like call me, and then I will ask all the right questions, I will extract all the information, I will make the pitch deck, and then I will send it. So I definitely see all this use case from a consumer and creator perspective. What are some of the use cases that you see in the enterprise?
The one that's moving the quickest is all about automating experiences or bringing completely new experiences where you have a voice agent as part of that. I think the top three would be, first is customer support. We are seeing so much of the enterprise work where the current IVR systems or lack of any system is just subpar. And now suddenly you have incredibly a good brain element with LLMs. You can have a good voice experience. And then, of course, what's the most important and wasn't possible until this year and something that we are building is even if you have a voice and text, for enterprise use case, you need so much more. You need to, be able to integrate that with existing legacy systems. You need to have the functions in place to integrate with the outside world. So a good example would be, how do I get the data from Salesforce or Google Drive inside of the brain? How do I now bring it to the telephony system through Twilio or SIP trunking? So that was like a big category of things that enterprise really needs. Then the functions. How should the agent behave depending on set of conditions? So when should it end the call? How should it approach the billing request or a refund request? So that was a big part that was missing and finally possible. And then the third one, and probably key, when you have the voice agent created, how do you now deploy it to the production? So you want to test it, you want to see whether it performs well, then you want to evaluate it on a small group, refine it, bring it to production, monitor, and continuously let it refine further. And all of that is something that we've been working on, like how can we make it easy for enterprises, and customer support is one of the biggest use cases, which can be unlocked with a combination of those tooling. Second one is personal agents or personal assistants. So many of that work is now possible where you can interact through voice with the assistant instead of text. A good example is we work with Perplexity, where you can interact with Perplexity through voice. We work with chess.com. Anybody likes chess? The moment you hear the narration, it's usually ElevenLabs, but now we are working on interacting, so you can actually get more of the personalized lessons experience, which would be incredible. So that's the second big one. And the third one is internal training. We see so many places where you can have a voice agent train you to be prepared for the circumstances. It stretches from use cases like hiring and recruiting, so you can effectively train the staff to be a better interviewer, all the way through to recently we worked with a company doing 911 preparedness. So they are training all the staffers in US so that if you are taking 911 call, you are ready to take it and be ready for the emotions that frequently those calls bring. So we are simulating through voice agents all types of the craziest situations, so people are ready to get across. And of course, on that customer support, like the good examples is Cisco or Twilio that will use that in their customer support work to use the voice agent. And maybe just a last place, which probably I should have started with. When we say voice agent, what we really mean is a combination of a great orchestration around voice. So you interact with an AI through voice, underpinned by the generative component of LLMs, so that the conversation does resemble a lot of the human interaction that you would have across. And then, of course, the voice agent ideally have access to a lot of information to make this a good experience overall.
And do you see a future in which we have certified voice agent? I work with a founder, and he is expanding to the US within healthcare. And he told me, like, look, we could do the onboarding for all this elderly that should have prescribed exercises, medicine, but we're not allowed to call, and there are like hundreds of thousands of them. And I'm like, hey, maybe you should use ElevenLabs. They're like, yeah, but you need to be certified. So there are like all these niche markets where you have to be certified. Do you see a future in which you have an ElevenLabs certified nurse that calls your mom or grandma, like, hey, did you take your pills? Hey, did you do this? Instead of having like a nurse doing it.
Which country is it? Your friend?
Sweden. But he's doing it in the US.
In the US. We work with few companies that do exactly that, which is such an incredible use case. Hippocratic is a good example, where they've automated inbound, or Elise AI is another great one, where you bring the calls. Frequently patients are calling in, you need to handle them, and there's no way to do that. People are working at the same time, and they found a way to do that through creating voice agents. And the second is exactly what you said, Colin, which is now you want to call them back and remind them about taking medicine or ask a follow-up or a reminder about taking an additional appointment. And they've been able to crack that. They, of course, work with the actual verified hospitals and nurses to go through. Maybe flavor, I don't know if that's the direct answer to your question. There is a interesting piece or the second step of like, now that I have voice agent calling me, how do I know that this is authorized agent and not a AI deepfake or untrusted source? And I think this will be a big adjustment that we'll need to create both as a society, but also implement the technology. The way I think this will work is you will have a watermark embedded as part of the audio. That is verified, so this is my voice, your voice, when you are having and creating your agent, or a nurse's voice if nurse is creating their agent. And that watermark gets effectively detected by the delivery mechanism. Let's say it's a web call, then the web call will detect that this is the watermark and then surface that information back to the user. So you know that this is a real thing. I actually think all of us will have like multiple agents that act on your behalf. We'll call a restaurant to take a booking, call a booking system to reschedule appointment, and then probably there will be an agent on the other side. So you'll have like agent-to-agent interactions too, which will be interesting. But the bottom line is that there will definitely need to be like authentication mechanism that gives you that ability to understand, okay, this is AI voice that actually comes from the real source.
Should this watermark be a sort of protocol recognized by different type of sources?
Ideally, yes. So ideally, this would be, and that's where the society piece needs to come in, because if you are a private company or a public company, then you of course have the extent of your influence is somewhat limited. So you cannot dictate other companies to adopt the same watermark that you are using. The worst scenario would be that everybody has their own watermark, and then the systems of delivery need to check whether the watermarks make sense, are right, and they are not spoofed in some way, which of course is a problem itself. So ideally, you would have some version of a watermarking consortium that everybody can be part of. I really like how HTTP and HTTPS kind of works, where you have that same mechanism where if you're a trusted source, you can verify other trusted sources, and then if you lose trust, that can be kind of taken away. And the watermarking mechanism could be maybe the same way, where you have an open source model for watermarking, and then some ability of staying trusted. Of course, tricky one, because you need to then get people to actually adopt that across the world. And then there's another force, which is the open source models, which will not come with the same watermarking mechanism. You will have, of course, a lot of the players, especially in Asia, coming with the models without using the same safeguards or the same paradigms. So then you are fighting against those models. And watermarking in audio is a little bit trickier, because in comparison to image models, if you are adding watermark in audio, it can have effect on the audio itself, because you need to add some system or some change. So that's the big piece that you need to solve for. I think there are some good models. SynthID from Google is one of the good ones that we like, which is a paper that you can check it out as well, which gives some good ideas about the future.
And also, you've powered Lex Fridman interview with the Prime Minister of India. What were the challenges there?
And we were lucky to work with Lex on few of his podcasts. So the way it worked was, Lex interviews one of the world leaders, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President Zelensky of Ukraine, President Javier Milei from Argentina, and the conversation would take place where Lex is speaking English and the world leader is speaking their native language. So in the Narendra Modi example, it was Hindi, and the conversation then, when it's provided to the viewers, ideally would take place in English and potentially a few other languages, and in this example, English and in Hindi. So we worked with them to effectively dub it, or AI dub it, preserving the same voice, the same emotion, the same intonation across. So if you listened to Lex Fridman, then hopefully you enjoyed some of the technology behind the scenes as well. And the challenge is, this especially, I mean, both Narendra Modi or President Zelensky, like the stakes of the conversation for us are very high. So you want to make sure that they are perfect. So we would do the first pass with AI, but then of course we would have human checkers checking every single translation in the word to make sure you don't mistranslate any specific word. And then the second thing, of course, is there's the translation check, but then you also have the audio check itself. So you make sure that the emotion, intonation, the delivery on the other side resembles the emotions that were on the original. So you need to have a speaker that speaks both languages, of course, to be able to compare those two. And sometimes it's super hard. Like in Spanish, we have English and Spanish. Spanish is roughly 30-40% longer on average. So now, how do you fit that audio delivery in the same time? So the time is the constraint, because the podcast that you can deliver needs to be in exactly the same amount that was recorded. For services like YouTube, you can only upload exactly the same length of audio. So suddenly you need to not only translate from English to Spanish, you need to translate from English to Spanish while keeping it 30% shorter, so you can fit the delivery of audio in the same way.
Wonderful. So you kind of go like, hey, ¿qué hace? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, translation.
Exactly. I was once in a client meeting in Korea, which was exactly this, and we had a big presentation. Then there was a heated exchange on the other side. And then our translator told us they are saying it's okay. And I wish I had like the Babelfish from Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy to understand everything they've said, which hopefully we'll create with ElevenLabs one day.
And how far away are we to do this real time?
Good question, because I hope we would make it available in the next 12 to 18 months.
Is your team listening right now?
I hope they are. No, we just came back from the offsite. We're just luckily here in Italy as well, as we were speaking about some of the future of where the research is going and where ElevenLabs is going, and real-time dubbing. So the main thing we want to make sure is that you get the quality of automatically dubbed content is extremely good first, and then the moment we know that you can trust it, that it delivers that in the right way, then we want to make it real-time. And we think we can make the dubbing model in like 6 months, and then or earlier, and then hopefully real time is soon after, and that would be just incredible. Like here is a good example, right? I mean, it's that I think the problem will be different, where you'll have the technology, and then how do you deliver that to the users, or communication? But like in this setting, everybody has headphones. You could easily imagine me speaking in any language, and that's automatically delivered in another language. But if you extrapolate 5 years from now, how incredible you'll be able to travel to another country and understand people around you. Of course, pending how do you technically deliver that? Is it Neuralink? Is it an AirPod? Is it something else? But I think we'll figure it out.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think is going to be the form factor for AI? Do you think it's going to be in the AirPod? You see the AirPods kind of getting smaller and smaller. You see Mark, with the glasses, Elon with the Neuralink. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a boring answer to your question, and then there's definitely like some piece that is still unknown, where the boring answer is I'm going to take multiple form factors. People will have different preferences, and you'll have a combination of those. Some people will have AirPods, some people will have glasses, some people will have a pendant that helps you. Some people will have like a more of the device behind the ear, and that will be like non-invasive technology that you can wear and enjoy the technology. I think this will be one of the big ones, especially, and even like kind of those 2 use cases. The one is the language barrier, and then even sooner and bigger one, I think, will have your personal agent that you can carry and consult on everything, and whether it's have a better education when you are in the school, all the way through to being a better professional if you are in any setting in the real world. So that will definitely take similar form factor to devices we already carry and have, just with embedded AI. And that's a simple one. Then the invasive ones will hopefully become less invasive, but I do think Neuralink is an incredible path to make it relatively simple for kind of carrying the AI technology in a deeper way. But also, of course, many scary questions around privacy and how that kind of can integrate well. But then there's definitely like a new form factor that we haven't figured out, which is probably the exciting one. There's a great founder for a company called Nothing, Carl Pei. He has interesting ideas. I hope he can come on your podcast next. He's Swedish as well, and maybe tell a few of them too. But there's definitely that space of like, AI social hasn't been figured out. I'm not a big fan of like, the TikTok version of that. But like there's more AI content that people enjoy and share. There's probably something better that I hope is getting figured out. And then two, to your question, there's definitely a AI hardware moment that hasn't been figured out yet.
And also, your technology also empowered Congresswoman Wexton, who'd lost her voice to speak in the U.S. House. How do you see ElevenLabs impacting those who don't have a voice?
Yeah, of course, so unfortunate circumstances. So a congresswoman had one of the immune illnesses where she lost her voice or was losing her voice. So we partnered with her to hopefully bring the voice back, and she really wanted to continue her work and show what's possible. So she created her voice and was she was the first person to deliver AI speech in Congress with use of AI, which was just an incredible show of her willingness of like working and inspiring others. And then, of course, so happy for us that we could be a part of that. And now we worked with so many people. So we have a ElevenLabs Impact Program where we partner with others to give them technology for free so they can create the voices. And that's both in the health system, in education, and culture. Now over 300 organizations, and we've brought 5,000 voices back, which is incredible.
5,000 voices.
5,000 voices.
Wow.
For people with ALS, cancer, other illnesses that unfortunately made them lose their voice. Recently, even this week, we on Tuesday we were speaking with another person that is trying to inspire others, Tim Green. He was a bookseller, so one of the top booksellers before an NFL star who unfortunately lost their voice, but then also worked with him to bring it back, and he is now doing a podcast with AI voice, interviewing others to show what's possible, which is incredible. But and there's just so many examples. Or like a person we worked with recently, a lawyer. She lost her voice. She wanted to continue advocating in a courtroom, and again we worked with her to bring it back. But the future hopefully is that we would love to bring 1 million voices back, get it to anyone in need, and I think that's the beautiful part of the technology where you can truly get a little bit of that identity back through technology, and maybe that combination with hardware will make it where you can do so much more as well.
Wonderful work, guys. And if I want to clone my mom's voice, so she's like 75, I know that she's going to die soon. Could I clone her voice and then from time to time just give her a call?
I think speak with her. I think you should ask her what she thinks, and if she is keen, I think she will likely. Yeah, there's definitely two parts to it, but I'm sure part of her will appreciate it. We have a lot of requests coming through from people that are keen to save their voice for their children or for others, and I think it will be amazing where you could with permission bring a lot of that across. We also worked on bringing some of the old voices back. So I'm a huge fan of Richard Feynman, a physicist, but beyond the physics and the breakthroughs he did, he always had an incredible way of the style delivery of how he's educating others. The humor and just making it like so simple. He reminds me of my co-founder in so many different ways. That he's just like, he would have those like insights into all the world around you, and then they were like kind of science, mathematical insight. It's just beautiful. And we worked with his estate, his daughter Michelle, to bring Richard Feynman's voice back. And we did it in two parts. One is a lot of the lecture notes, a lot of the books can be narrated with Richard Feynman's voice, so you can listen to them in his humoristic style. And then now we've created an agent where you can speak with Richard about physics, and it's a great experience. So that's my cue to get you guys to try ElevenLabs, and I'll experiment with Richard Feynman, ask him some trick questions.
Which book? Because I'm an avid reader and listener to books. Which book can we find it that has his voice?
We have a lot. We have his books, but also some of the just popular science.
Yeah.
But my favorites are probably the Caltech lecture notes because they were never delivered in any way, and they are great.
Awesome. So if we change gears and we get personal, you've raised $200 million so far from the world's best investors, You're on track to reach 300 million ARR by end of 2025, if I'm correct me if I'm not. And Time named you one of the most influential people in AI in 2025. What drives you, and how do you stay grounded?
Look, I have a very lucky position where I work with my best friend who I've known for so long, and it's just be pleasure to be able to work with him. Now we, of course, a team of 300 people that I think are a mighty team. We have like the way we approach it, we have a lot of small teams. So it's like really now 30 teams of up to 10 people, and everybody works very independently with high ownership on that work. So on that offside, I mean, one of the great elements was just seeing how each team is independently getting so ambitious about the future and doing their best work. So that definitely is a big driver. Just seeing the momentum and the motivation across the wider team. But I think where it comes from, and what I think is very true across us, is that AI is one of the biggest shifts in the world, maybe bigger than the internet. And we are, as a company, and we have a chance of being the voice of that shift. We have a chance to be the voice of the technology. And it's a rare opportunity in life to be able to kind of define where that goes. I think we are the frontier of voice AI technology today. We want to be in the future. And we can do just so much incredible work, whether it's in the voice agent space, whether it's in the creative space. So we are giving it all to make it happen. And I think I think all of us have the lack of being in that foundational shift where you can create so much work. It just takes agency and will to be able to do it and hopefully create amazing work for others.
Awesome. And how did your relationship with Piotr evolve across this 15 years? Did you guys have moments in which you are, hey, I don't think this is good enough. We need to level up. Hey, I don't think this is going to work.
I think we have it all the time. I mean, we drove in a car today, and we had I think we effectively were talking about the things we need to improve. A little bit about some of the things that are going well, but it's like 80% is the first part. And I think that's a good feeling. There's just so much you can get so much better in every aspect of that work. So that's that hopefully what will get us better too. And we through the years of the company, we definitely had the trickier moments, especially when we started. In 2022, that was still the year where crypto, metaverse were the topics of the day. So everybody was pretty excited about those, less about AI. So then my co-founder, his background, he was at Google doing text models for Knowledge Graph. Then before he was doing image models at Oxford and Cambridge. And now suddenly he's going into audio. So there's a high skepticism, like, what is this guy? The first question we get was like, okay, so what's your experience in audio models? So he didn't have experience in audio models. Nobody's excited about AI, and we're telling we'll solve these. So that was definitely maybe a good element of pressure too, looking back. But like, okay, it's a hard task. Like, how do you outcompete Google or OpenAI hasn't had yet the bigger profile with the models yourself? And then second, which is also very interesting, at the time, we got a lot of the questions like, there's no market for voice AI, and there's no interest in the voice AI as a whole space. And fast forward to today, you have everyone from Mark Zuckerberg saying that this is the biggest way of interacting, and his bet is that the voice will be the main part of the glasses interaction. Jensen giving us a great quote recently when I met him of speech to text is technology, but text to speech being artistry, and how you can like finally elevate the emotion and the human spirit through voice, which I think is so true and real. And so many other leaders realizing how big the voice is, which is, of course, more competition, which is good, but also reaffirming that the market is immense.
And as an entrepreneur, how were you going through those moments where you got so many no's, there is no market? How were you staying determined on your path?
It was, like in a way, it was never like never a consideration. We know that this is the future that we want to see through. So of course there's a place of like, maybe the timing wouldn't have worked out, and that's when you give up. But we were pretty confident that this is the future that we want to get to. And it's also working with people that you enjoy working with, and it's like it's like I don't feel like it's work. So it was just an amazing pleasure. What we did before to like make it an easier start into the company, we would do, when I was at Palantir, I was at Google, we would meet for weekend projects together and hack together on an idea, not commercially, just for fun. So that gave us a good exposure of how we can work together, what we enjoy. We did a recommendation system at one point. We did a risk analyzer for crypto. That was very hard to do. And then at some point knew that we would love to do a lot more and go full time. But that definitely helped us with like experience how we like working together. So at the moment we were in.
And where do you stand in the position in the debate of the AI that AI is going to take over in 2-3 years versus, let's say, in 10 years? Is it a benevolent AI? Is not a benevolent AI? What do you think?
Look, there's definitely risks in it's like the alignment space of how do you make sure that AI is kind of on set of rails that keeps us in check. And I think there's maybe an interesting flavor of that, of like increasingly a lot of the bigger countries are trying to create their own foundational models, which will to some extent show the values of the system that the AI has been created from. Of course, that will be very different in the Western democracy than other parts of the world. And that will carry its own implications. I think this is like an interesting part of how this will go across. 2-3 years versus 10. I think it's more on the 10 side or further out. So I think we have a lot of time and iteration. Especially now, I think the systems across AI are more, rather than end to end, meaning they can do something from the beginning to end the way the human would. They're more middle to middle, where you use AI as part of the process, and it can do parts of the process extremely well, but you still need a lot of the wrapping of how to actually use it. And I think that's the big difference I kind of feel now with the AI systems to maybe 10 years from now.
Got it. And the last question, if you would have to write a letter to the younger Matti, just starting his career, thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, what would you write to him?
I would say, well, I could write a little long letter too, which would be helpful. It's like, all the timing decisions that we could have made. But I think first of all, the company at the end of the day is the team and the culture you create. So you want to spend all your time on thinking, or most of your time on hiring the right people, making sure they have the runway to be able to execute and run, and they are aligned in the passion and motivation to go after. I think this is like the most important piece. So like every part of the company, I think for the history that worked well with was the people that we hired that were incredible. I would just have spent more time on hiring in the places where I think we haven't done that as well. And second, I would reaffirm my younger self that small teams are great. We should do it. We had a moment where we were kind of expanding the teams. I would have kept the small team small, and now we're back at the small team. So that was definitely super helpful. And in general, I think the theme I would say is, and this still might be wrong in the future, but I think I would act frequently quicker than I would have. So I would tell that like if intuition and the conversations indicate one way, don't wait for it. It's usually better for everybody to do it quicker. Whether it's launching a new project, whether it's parting with a person, whether it's hiring a person, whether it's bringing the news to the market when you are not sure it's ready. Usually all of those would have been, yes, it was better to actually launch it, bring it higher a little bit quicker. But it's always
hindsight.
Yeah, it's not easy in the time. What I can feel is like we are getting quicker, but I wonder where is that kind of breaking point where it's maybe it is too quick. So we'll see. I'll in a few years maybe I'll write another letter to myself, the younger self.
Exactly. So culture, small teams, and speed.
Exactly.
Matti, thank you so much for taking the time. Everyone,
thank you.
please thank Matti for.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. It's